Welcome to Two Bums in a Pod, the only podcast that has been named by Eric Armstead himself. I'm Grant Cohn. The other bum in the podcast is Ryan Sakamoto, two longtime veteran 49ers beat writers. In Ryan's case, a beast writer. We have some breaking news. I broke this today. I want to tell you what happened. I didn't record it because I'm an idiot, but it was on a Zoom call, and they're going to send me the recording soon. So here's what happened. Joe Montana is promoting, what is it again? The
FCI or something?
Something like, yes. Sorry, Joe, I should know that. And I will when I write the article. But basically, it's a spring 7-on-7 football league where like players are like the owner. No, fans are the owners and fans call plays. And it's kind of wild. And it's on Twitch right now. So anyway, he was promoting that. And I interviewed him about that. And then at the end, I said, Joe, could I ask you a couple of questions about the Niners? And he said, yeah, of course. We got a little bit of time. So I said, Joe, what do you think of Jimmy Garoppolo? And on the record, he's pretty good when he's healthy. I'm paraphrasing. He's pretty good when he's healthy, but it's not healthy enough. It's not healthy enough. And it seems to me the Niners should just move on and start someone younger and more vivacious. Those were his words, younger and more vivacious. And then he keeps going and said, and that's not it. The Niners really shouldn't have given him all that money with that contract. He had only had, how many starts was it? I was at 7, Joe, 7. Yeah, that's right. He only had 7 starts. And he said, the other thing is, I don't think there's ever been a backup of a great quarterback who went on to another team and became a great quarterback. That's what he said. I don't think there's ever been a backup of a great quarterback who went on to be great somewhere else. Now, Steve Young was great on the 49ers behind Joe. Aaron Rodgers, great on the Packers after Brett Favre. But I think and I'll have to go back and listen to the quote. I think what Joe Montana was saying is basically, if Jimmy Garoppolo was the truth, the Patriots wouldn't have gotten rid of him because the Niners pushed Joe out the door because Steve was the truth. And it was like, look, Joe, we love you, but Steve's the real deal and he's younger than you. It's over. And the same thing with Favre and Rodgers. Favre, we love you, but Rodgers is the truth. And Favre went on to have good years after that. Montana went on to have good years after that. What we're seeing, I think, is that Jimmy Garoppolo was a little bit of a mirage. He got hurt in New England. He gets hurt all the time. And what Joe is saying is the guy can't stay healthy, move on, get someone younger and more lively, durable. What do you think?
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Like, it's fun. It's funny how Joe Montana says these words. And again, like I told you, before coming on the show, I was like, man, I don't wake up for Joe Montana, but I wake up for you. But no, getting back to he's the best. Aside from Tom Brady, but he knows the quarterback position. Like he's arguably the best to ever do it. So when he says words like that, you have to take it into account, but then take it a step further and say, really, what is Kyle Shanahan thinking? Like, why are you throwing all this smoke when you know damn well that he ain't the answer?
And I think it's just amazing that Joe Montana is so candid. Candid. It's like, I'm not in the organization. I mean, they're not paying me to pump up his trade value. I'm saying I'm Joe Montana. I'm allowed to be candid. It's my franchise. I built this franchise, and I'm telling I'm not even really judging. As he's good when he plays. He just doesn't play enough, and he's getting older. Let's get someone younger who plays more. I think that's basically like common sense. And for him to say it, I think is devastating for Jimmy Garoppolo. Once Joe Montana says that on the record about the 49ers starting quarterback, there's no coming back.
Absolutely. There's
no coming back. Now I think the whole fan base is going to be like, well, Joe's right. If you remember, Alex Smith, there was a moment when he was the starter before Harbaugh got here where Jerry Rice said, enough, he's not our quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Alex still talks about that to this day about how that was pretty much the end for him in San Francisco because the fans will never look at you the same way when a legend writes you off.
Right. So
I just thought it was interesting. I mean, would Steve Young be that candid on the record about no, I don't think he would. He kind of tapped. He'd say it, but then he wouldn't.
He would, yeah. I mean, I think we've been around Steve Young to know how he kind of would play it politically.
Yes.
But then also give you little tidbits, so you kind of have no choice but to decipher one way.
He would say a lot, and part of it would be what Joe was saying, but the other part would probably be giving Jimmy Garoppolo the benefit of the doubt. But what I thought was really, really interesting about Joe was not just that he wrote off Jimmy, was that he also critiqued the organization and said, what were you thinking there? It's not just Jimmy. It's Jed. It's John Lynch. It's Kyle. Like 7 games. I'm sure from Joe's perspective, like, boy, how much money had I made after 7 games in the NFL? Like Jimmy Garoppolo's worth $100 million. How much did Joe Montana make in the NFL? Like 10 million, maybe? Like, wow. This guy really didn't have to prove anything to make a fortune. I would. And the other thing that I asked Joe was, hey, Joe, he was saying like, about the 7-on-7 league. I was like, well, the funny thing is football today has kind of become like 7-on-7. They've taken a lot of the hitting out of it. And I said, Joe, would you like to, do you ever think like that you would have liked to play today in this era where they protect quarterbacks and quarterbacks make $40 million a year? He's like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't, so
that's fantasy football. That's the, he might
have been playing into his 40s if he never got hit by, Lawrence Taylor and
Carl Banks or whatever. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. All right. We got a big question from John saying, can we win with Tyrod Taylor? I would think we can trade or cut Jimmy and re-sign our free agents. What do you think about that?
No. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a little bit better than Tyrod Taylor. He's proven that he can win. I think that Kyle Shanahan has enough trust in him in the intermediate to at least get them to 10 wins. So I would say that's a hard no.
Yeah, hard no. He's had injury issues too. He's not young. I think the Niners, you could do better with a young. I'm taking Joe Montana's advice. Let's go younger at the position. Let's get someone a little bit more vivacious. If they go with a rookie, that's fine. Because I don't see any move the Niners can do at this point that takes them into number 1 or number 2 in the division. I think best case, they're 3rd in the NFC West. So build for 2022. If they start some rookie quarterback that they get at 12 or 43 this year in the draft, great. That's the way I see it. You don't need to go with Tyrod Taylor. It's just kind of like delaying the development of your team that you're shooting for in 2022.
Exactly. Yeah. Great point. Great point.
Okay. Richburg, hip surgery, no timetable for his return. It feels like there's been no timetable for his return for like 2 years. No injury guarantee in his deal. They can cut him. Seems like they're going to cut him. What do you think of, before we look to the future, let's look to the past. I never liked this signing when they made it. They gave Richburg a lot of dough, and he had injury issues in New York. What do you think of the Richburg experiment?
Lack of experiment. I mean, he hasn't been on the field, man. Like, what sample size do we have to pull from him for them to like make this free agent signing and then have him to have these injuries? Also, we have to look at this in hindsight. Yeah, in hindsight, it was a bad play. Even in real time, I would have to agree with you. It was a bad play.
Yeah.
Why would you sign this guy to that big money deal and then further compound that problem by him being injured? And then now you're stuck with damaged goods. He's just sitting there. He's like a sitting duck. I mean, me and you do the same exact thing he does.
His final year on the Giants, he missed 12 games. Richburg. And they gave him that big deal.
And isn't it funny that you mentioned that? And what happened when they signed Quan Alexander? He had a torn ACL.
He had coming off a season where I think he missed 10 games.
There you go.
And so when they talk about we got bad luck with injuries, nah, man, you make bad decisions on injured players.
Boom.
And you do it all. It's like if for a team, you might want to take a risk here and there. Like Jason Verrett was the right kind of risk to take. It didn't cost you much, but the Niners do it all the time, and it's going to even out to the point where it's going to bite you. You're doing it too much.
From a strength and conditioning standpoint, I mean, me being in the game, right? You really have to look into the red flags. Like you have to look at the injury history. And everybody's body operates differently. But at the end of the day, you cannot just disregard torn ACLs or people with bad knee problems or people with shoulder problems or what's called subluxated dislocations. You can't ignore these things.
No.
They are real things. And it's up to the strength and conditioning coach to strengthen those body parts. But at the end of the day, if he's damaged goods going into that new regime or that new team, you are doing yourself a disservice because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, period.
Right. I think it shows that the Niners are either too confident in modern science and surgeries, or they just don't look at the full picture. They're looking at the film, what they show on tape. To me, the full picture is also your injury history. How clean are you? Because if you've already missed 12 games in a season, you're getting older. Football gets more violent every year. I mean, the players get bigger, faster, stronger every year. How are you going to find durability when you're losing it? It seems like it slips away quickly. And I don't trust players who've been under the knife 2-3 times. Like, sorry,
Yeah, absolutely.
As a rule.
Absolutely.
So this Richburg thing set a bad precedent for the Niners, and it's a pattern they need to end.
You think it would, but who knows what happens in free agency, Grant? They might say, "Oh, this guy's a bargain free agent. Let's go get him."
So Ryan and I are going to go through all the different free agent scenarios in a minute, and that's something to keep in mind. People with injury histories, just say no. The Niners, maybe for another team that's been cautious and conservative, you can take one risk, but the Niners have taken like 12, so enough.
Yeah,
they're like addicts. So, but first, I want to talk about the one more breaking news of the day. Chris Sims revealed his quarterback rankings. It's my favorite quarterback ranking of the year. He's really not beholden to consensus. He doesn't care what Jeremiah and Kuiper and all these other guys who always have the same exact ranking say. His is different, and his track record the last 3-4 years is impeccable. It's very good. He had Lamar Jackson number 1, Josh Allen number 2, Baker Mayfield number 3 that year. I mean, that's wow. Pretty good. And I think he had Justin Herbert I think he had number 2 after Burrow last year. So anyway, He's good and he's thoughtful. So what I'm going to do is take you through his ranking and explain what he said and have you react to it. Okay? So he starts off with a controversial pick. He says number 1, and there's a clear difference. Like the guy's in a whole different tier. By far the best quarterback in the draft. BYU, Zach Wilson.
Ooh.
And I guess I've heard this around the league a little bit. Like some people think Zach Wilson's better. Well, he laid it out. And what he said is compared to Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. He said he has a phenomenal arm, that he can throw rockets all over the field, and he doesn't have to get momentum into the throws, that he can throw from any arm slot, and that he's quicker than Trevor Lawrence, has better mechanics than Trevor Lawrence. He basically said there's nothing he doesn't do poorly. And when I heard this, I was like, man, this is crazy. But later on, when he's talking about Kellen Mond, I've been watching Kellen Mond, I feel like more than anyone in the world. That's my guy. And everything he said about Kellen Mond was right. 100% right. So when I listen to this, I'm like, man, I got a lot of problems with what you're saying about Zach Wilson. I also give this guy like more than begrudging respect. He really knows what he's talking about. I'd love to hear what you think of his take.
Oh, man. I think the consensus is still Trevor Lawrence, but he is right. Like, if you're looking at it from a NFL-ready standpoint, Zach Wilson is the most polished quarterback coming out. So if you're in the win-now mode, he also has high potential. So when you look at his ceiling, when you look at the mechanics that he's talking about, can make all the throws. The one thing I will question is Zach Wilson's size. I don't think he needs to bulk up.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing that Chris Sims pointed out as well. Like he'd like him to be a little thicker. He's 6'3", 210, but he says that's not that big of an issue in today's NFL.
Yeah, especially with the way the rules are dictated, as you pointed out earlier. But no, it doesn't surprise me that Sims would put Zach Wilson over Trevor Lawrence, because I think Trevor Lawrence gives the wow factor, the most explosive, sexy pick over any other quarterback. But if you're looking at it from a GM perspective, and you're, like I said, if you want the most polished quarterback coming out with little mental errors to work with, because he doesn't make mental errors or very mental lapses, I would say Zach Wilson would be the number 1 choice. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, let me tell you where I would disagree with Sims, and tell me what you think. I mean, he said that Zach Wilson has Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes level arm strength. I disagree with that right off the bat. I don't think. I mean, what I see from him is a guy who it looks like 7-on-7 football. BYU, at least in 2020. Had an easy schedule and a good offensive line, and he had time and space. And when he did throw downfield, he kind of hitched into it and got some momentum and threw some rockets. But in the very few instances where where there was a guy in his face, like against Coastal Carolina, you see the arm strength, it becomes not bad, but just more not Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can throw lasers off his back foot all day, right?
Yeah.
Just snap throws off his back foot.
Right.
Mahomes, too. I don't see that from Zach Wilson. So that, to me, was overstated. He never really accounted for the fact that Zach Wilson, to me, was playing 7-on-7 football in 2020. He's a one-year wonder. He didn't have great years before this year. And he called him like he's a pocket passer first, and like his first, second, and third options is to pass. I think he really likes to run. And I think he's going to scramble a lot in the NFL. And my issue is, look what happened to RG3. I mean, that guy's about the same size, and he tore his ACL, and he couldn't really stay. He was taking big hits before he tore his ACL. Kyler Murray's super quick and elusive. You can't catch him. Russell Wilson was that way when he was young. I don't think Zach Wilson is going to be running circles around NFL defenders. I think he's going to get hit hard, and I question his durability playing this way in the NFL. That's what I say.
No, you agree. I agree.
Yeah. So one-year wonder, BYU, real scary. I think I agree that he has more upside than Trevor Lawrence because he does have a lot of upside.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has proven it for 3 years. He's been a starter for 3 years. He won a national championship. I would just put Trevor Lawrence number one. But what he says is that played on an all-star team. You know, anytime things were going bad, he could just dump it off to Travis Etienne or hand it to him. He's even said his mechanics are a little off. He said he's not one of the best throwers in the league. He's more of an athlete. And he is a pretty good athlete, but he's not even as athletic as Justin Herbert. He basically said he's kind of like Justin Herbert, but Herbert is better.
Ooh.
What do you think of that? That's a little harsh.
Yeah, from a pure athletic standpoint, I would take Trevor Lawrence any day of the week over Justin Herbert. I'm sorry. Give me Trevor
Herbert's
Lawrence.
A little thicker, maybe a little thicker. Trevor Lawrence like 6'6", 220. But still, I mean, geez, the guy's won huge games. He won a national championship as a freshman. I think he's going to be really good. And I'm not certain that Zach Wilson is going to be really good. It's going to be a big difference going from BYU to the NFL in terms of the pockets he's in and the speed of the defense. Trevor Lawrence has proven it against teams like Alabama.
Right.
So that one to me, I give Christian a ton of respect. He's usually right. But I was like, wow, I think that's wrong. Anyway, number 3, he has Mac Jones. And what he says
I'm an Alabama guy.
I like Mac Jones too. He says the guy's way better than I thought he'd be. Mm-hmm. His ability to get from A to B to C in the progression is the best he's seen. It's up there with Joe Burrow. That basically he's a lot like Joe Burrow, but not quite as good. But not that much off either, is what he was saying. He's got really quick feet, great ability to process, accurate, arm strong enough. What do you think?
Yeah, all those things. And one thing, I'm a huge Alabama fan and watch him since last year. But one thing you really have to take into account, again, is the fact that he stands tall in the pocket. Like when he is facing adversity and pressure in his face, does he stand tall in the pocket and still deliver a strike in stride to the receiver? Too many people put stock in a player's accuracy. Well, it all comes to the college system that they're in. Right. A lot of times they're in a spread formation. But at the end of the day, it's almost like this. How do you grade accuracy is based on where the ball is being thrown on the proper shoulder or in stride. So that way the receiver can run after the catch without making choppy steps coming in and out of his breaks. And that's what Mac Jones does. He throws to receivers in stride, whether it's John Mechie, Devontae Smith, or someone else. I mean, Jalen Waddle, you name it. Miller Forrestall coming down the seams. He throws always in seams and down and in stride. So it's really interesting to see when people knock Mac Jones for his lack of accuracy when he's the most accurate quarterback, in my opinion, in this draft.
Yeah, he's extremely accurate. He seems like he always knows where to go with the ball by the time he hits his back foot, which is good. I mean, Jimmy's not like that. Jimmy Garoppolo's not like that. I mean, really, I think it's a skill. I'm not sure that it's necessarily coachable, because if it were, Jimmy Garoppolo would have improved the last 4 years. I think some quarterbacks see it quickly, some quarterbacks process quickly, and others don't. And this guy clearly does. So when people say he has no physical gifts, well, that's depends on how you think of mental processing. That's a physical thing going on in your brain. It's like how your neurons are firing, how you react to the data presented to you. Some people react quicker. It's not about like your ability to figure out a trigonometry problem. It's just how you react quickly.
Right.
How you digest information. And Mac Jones does it. The only thing with Mac Jones is, and he's not big. And for a pocket quarterback who's not mobile really either, He's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady in that 6'5" frame, it helps him. It helped Phillip Rivers. It helped Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, it's going to help Kyle Trask, who's freaking huge. To me, when the pocket, not even when there's pressure, but when it just constricts, he looks tiny in there. And I think he really did benefit from that great pocket that he had at Alabama. That's my only question.
Yeah, I mean,
only question.
You can't knock the offensive line. I mean, that Alabama offensive line is freaking probably the best in the college football, right? You have Landon Dickerson.
A lot of play action that worked wonders because of Naji Harris. Yeah.
Right. So it's just going to be interesting because you have to project, and that's not our job, thank God.
Yeah. See, to me, like I love everything about the way he throws, but the question is, how is he going to be in the NFL around NFL athletes with bodies around him? Because I love the way Jared Goff threw at Cal. I mean, he was great throwing the ball, but the issue with Jared Goff is what happens when bodies are around him. He kind of folds.
Right.
And that's why it's so tough, really scouting a quarterback at Alabama. Like, how many reps are you really going to see where he's swarmed? Like, they don't let that happen to their quarterbacks. No. All right. So the next one he has is Kellen Mond, number 4. And he goes on and on. I mean, he even is more enthusiastic than I am, but now I'm as enthusiastic as he is. He says basically he's got a special arm. He can make any throw. He's accurate. I agree. He's got a lot of drops from those wide receivers at Texas A&M. The offense stunk. He lost one game in the SEC this year. It was to Alabama. Had 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, ready to start right away. And that basically he says he's a better passer right now with better mechanics than Trevor Lawrence, and is a good athlete who basically his one knock is that he doesn't use his athleticism enough. He tries too hard to like stay faithful to Jimbo Fisher's terrible offense, where he can actually go off script and use his gifts more. And that he's a little too mechanical and tight with his upper body. Seems like he's the kind of guy that could, Sims feels, could really have potential unlocked in the NFL. And I freaking agree. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Kellen Mond, although I'm not as high in him as I am like a Zach Wilson or Mac Jones or even a Trevor Lawrence, mechanically, you have to put Mond above Trevor Lawrence. Again, Trevor Lawrence mechanics are really questionable. And when you watch the game film, really slow down the plays and from a pure pocket passer mentality, right? Obviously, he's a dual threat quarterback, but if you're looking at him from a pure pocket passer presence, you will notice fundamentally mistakes that you don't see in Kellen Mond's game or you don't see in Zach Wilson's game. I think that comes with poise. I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence isn't poised. I'm just saying there's certain things that you can catch when watching Trevor Lawrence as opposed to Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond can make all the throws. I mean, I think that's one thing we are not going to question. Like, the guy has a strong arm.
There's no question about it. He's got a cannon.
And
quick release. He's accurate, especially over the middle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great point. So I mean, I know you're high on Kellen Mond, and like I said, it doesn't surprise that Sims says this because at the end of the day, he's looking at it, I can tell, from a mechanics perspective based on these rankings, and I'm not surprised that Trevor Lawrence isn't last based on mechanics.
It's interesting. Well, he crushes the next 2 guys for the mechanics, but I mean, he's basically saying that his guy's Mond's stock is going to rise highly. And I see it like Kaepernick was the 36th pick in the draft. That's probably right around where Mond's going to go. If Jordan Love was the 26th pick, this guy's better than Jordan Love. I'm telling you, he's better than Jordan Love. He's actually really good. And you saw it in the Senior Bowl. Finally, you get an NFL type offense with some future NFL receivers, and boom, he's the MVP. So I like that. I like that ranking. Mond number 4. And then he has Justin Fields number 5, and he says, look, the guy's raw, really good athlete, guy's raw. With Mond, he said he gets from A to B to C really efficiently. And I think he's probably the second best at doing it after Mac Jones. I haven't watched a lot of Trevor Lawrence, but A to B to C processing speed, he does it like a pocket quarterback, but he's an athlete. He has athleticism that Mac Jones doesn't have, which is why I think I even prefer Kellen Mond to Mac Jones. What he says about Justin Fields is, first of all, he doesn't get from A to B to C quickly. He stares at A for a long time, and if it's not there, he panics and runs. That's what I see as well. And he says his mechanics are all over the place, that he has really impressive throws where he'll, bomb a 60-yard post, but he's just really inconsistent from throw to throw because he's really loose with his arm. He's just very loose is what he brings. Same thing with Dwayne Haskins. What do you think of that?
Ooh, Dwayne Haskins comparison?
Just in terms of the way they throw.
Yeah. I think Justin Fields is raw. I'm just going to echo what Sim says because he hits it on the nail. Anything that he's good. Like it's good. How can you say Justin Fields is not raw? Like when you just watch him play, he's playing backyard football. And that's not that may be his game. I mean, there's some players that play well that way.
He's just making plays. He's not really executing.
He's not. He's more reading and reacting, right? So it's almost like, okay, I don't care if the pressure comes. I'm going to find an open receiver some way, somehow. That's not going to
I'll hold the ball long enough and a receiver will become open and I'll find him or I'll run.
Right.
That's the way I see it. Like when you watch the coaches tape, you can really see who's open on a given play. You can put it in half speed. I like to put it in slow motion, and I like to pause it right when he reaches the top of his drop. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing when you reach the top of your drop? You can see who's open. You can see if he's looking at him, and you can see how long it takes him to find someone who's open. And with Mac Jones, it's remarkable how consistently he finds the open guy by the time he gets to the top of his drop. Same with Kellen Mond. With Justin Fields, it's remarkable how infrequently he finds the open guy by the time he gets to the top of his drop. He's looking somewhere, the guy's not open, and he stares and stares. It's like, come on, man, get open. No. And then by the time he moves on, it's late. His internal clock to me is slow, and maybe that's not his fault. Maybe that's an Ohio State thing. But whatever, they didn't prepare him for what he's going to have to do in the NFL. He seems raw. He's going to need some time.
Yeah. It's the same thing that Jimmy Garoppolo has problems with, right? Going through his progressions, he always scans one side of the field, doesn't look to the other side. Defense and secondary and defensive backs can cheat over to that side, knowing full well that they can just leave backside pursuit wide open. It's crazy.
Right. And if Jimmy can't improve on that part of his game under 4 years under Kyle Shanahan, then Shanahan has to know that he can't coach that up in Justin Fields if Justin Fields doesn't have it. I don't know if Justin Fields, it might be the Ohio State offense, but he hasn't shown it. You can't really know one way or another. So you're drafting him based on faith that he can do it. I wouldn't take that leap of faith. No Ohio State quarterback has been able to do it. Mm-hmm. It's a place you go to win a Heisman Trophy and get drafted high, but it stunts your growth and you'll be a bust. So that's a scary pick to me.
Right.
And then finally, he had Trey Lance, and he said, say what you want about Justin Fields, but this guy's even more raw. I mean, he hasn't played enough games. He's got a really strong arm, maybe better mechanics than Justin Fields, but he just he does not even go through progressions. He's a one read and run guy. Justin Fields tries to go through progressions and is just slow about it, in my opinion. It's very A, B, but Trey Lance is A, I'm running. It's almost like Vince Young, but faster, I guess. I totally agree with that. I don't see it with Trey Lance. That's a scary pick because you're going to have to take him high.
Yeah. And these quarterbacks are going to be pushed up the board, Grant. It's going to be really interesting to see how the top of the draft plays out because it's going to get interesting and it's going to get fun.
He said he thinks all 6 quarterbacks go round 1 that he listed, which is interesting because historically 2 will be great, 1 will be good, and 3 will freaking stink, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting. Who knows? It could be Lawrence and Mac Jones, who are great, Kellen Mond, who's good, and the other 3 are flat out busts, or some other, who knows? Zach Wilson makes me very scared though, because he's basically, you're taking a guy who had 1 great year during a pandemic, who faced the easiest schedule of his time at BYU. I would feel more comfortable taking him at number 2 if he went back to BYU and did it again, but he's not going to do that.
Yeah, no.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that, bro?
Why would you do that? Okay, we'll take a couple questions real quick, and then we'll hit our free agency preview. All right. Behind a Williams, Tomlinson, Mack, Slater, and McFloppy offensive line, who would have a better shot at winning the Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo or Mond? I don't know if you can assemble that offensive line, but remember, Jimmy Garoppolo tore his ACL the first time outside of the pocket. I almost feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is an accident waiting to happen. There's a lot of ways that you can get hurt in the football field, and behind a bad offensive line isn't the only one. I just think Jimmy Garoppolo needs to go. He can't stay healthy. Any quarterback who can execute Kyle's offense and stay healthy should do really well. And from what I've seen with Mond, he can execute this offense. Just stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
No, you're right.
I mean, it's what Joe Montana's like. He didn't have much to say about Jimmy other than can't stay healthy. Like, what else do you really need to say?
That's it.
You know?
That's it. Why pay someone if they're just going to be riding the pine?
Yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Yeah. Mond is the guy. Do you think the Niners could pull out the draft with Patrick Surtain Jr. and Darian Kendrick of Clemson, or J.C. Horn and Darian Kendrick of Clemson? Which pair is better against Niner competition? What do you think?
So he's asking who the 49ers should target?
Yeah, like if they go Mond in round 2, who do they get in round 1, I guess? I don't know where Darian Kendrick comes into play, but what do you think?
Yeah. So Patrick Surtain Jr. is definitely going to be off the board by the time the Niners are on the clock. I mean, you look at the teams drafting right in front of them. You have guys like the Panthers. You have guys like the Denver Broncos. Those guys are quarterback needy teams. Now, if they were to make a play for Patrick Surtain, they would have to move up in order to get him. But again, it all depends on how these quarterbacks get pushed up the board, because that's going to affect draft position. And then teams behind them might be able to trade up and then go after their guy. So Surtain could possibly fall, but at this point, it's fool's gold the way the draft position is set up.
Adrian Bravo says if the Niners aren't drafting O-line or DB at 12, they should trade back and draft Mond late first, or someone else will. No chance he goes into the second round. That's what's interesting. Like yesterday, people were thinking day 3 pick, maybe round 3. And now Chris Sims says it, and everyone's like, uh-oh, he's the guy. And he's probably right. I think there's a again, if Jordan Love went 26 last year, this guy should go right there. He's a better prospect.
He's better than Jordan Love, for sure.
Yeah, Jordan Love was a 1-year wonder at Utah State. He had a good 2018 and a bad 2019 and got a first-round grade off of that. So, yeah, I'm not sure the Niners could even get Mond. And now it brings me back to the other guy I like that this dude didn't even mention, Kyle Trask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you like Mac Jones. I like Mac Jones. I also like Kyle Trask for like the same reasons. So I don't know if that's the only guy available when the Niners get to 43, they should think about that guy. It's starting to look like Mond's gonna be a first-round pick. At least we were in on him early. All right, let's talk free agency here. We're gonna do it in a few different ways. We're gonna start off this way.
Okay.
Obviously the Niners are gonna sign people, but they're also gonna cut some people so they can create the cap space to sign people.
Right.
So who are the cap casualties going to be? We mentioned earlier Weston Richburg and his hip. He's probably going to be the first one. Are there any others that you can imagine the Niners might cut?
I don't see anyone they can cut, or that they will cut, I should say. I just think the way I think they're 12 million head above water, right? And aside from restructuring some of these deals, they still, they're still okay. So I don't see them cutting anyone. And where the cap savings come into play, it's not worth the risk of just cutting a player just to save a little bit of cap space. So
hold on. Let me throw a name out at you. Let me see if I can throw multiple names. But the first thing that comes to my mind is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, let's put it this way. The scenario happens. I don't think they would get rid of him until after June 1. Mm-hmm. So getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't help your cap space for this year's free agency. It doesn't. So in that sense, he'd be a strange cap casualty. But let's say the Niners draft Mac Jones with the 12th pick. Mm-hmm. Let's say Mac Jones falls to 12 and they take him. Although I think Chris Sims says, don't be surprised if the Panthers take him at 8. He's a lot like Joe Burrow. Joe Brady's there. But let's say Mac Jones falls to 12, or the Niners trade up to 7 and get him, and that's their guy, Mac Jones. What do you need Jimmy Garoppolo for? What are you paying him $27 million for? To be the bridge? Start 8 games? Then I think he could become a cap casualty. Mac Jones may not be there. Maybe the Niners can't get him. But if they do, all of a sudden, I think Jimmy Garoppolo, no one would care about Jimmy anymore. It's like, dude, Joe Montana said we should, so we're going to do it. We're going to cut Jimmy. They'd have to have a replacement before they just got rid of him. They're not just going to cut him and be like, okay, well, we have no quarterbacks on our team right now.
Right. Yeah. Right. No,
So,
that's a good point. That's a good point, because if they do draft a quarterback, you can't keep both quarterbacks on the roster, because one's obviously looking over his shoulder while the other one's like, dude, are you going to take my spot, bro? Like, what the hell? It's toxic. It's toxic.
I mean, D Ford, whenever he can pass a physical, will be a cap casualty, but who knows when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? That could be in 7 years from now. So him possibly, I don't know if Weston Richburg will ever play again. Laken Tomlinson, they probably won't cut him. They still see him as one of their better offensive linemen. They can't cut Eric Armstead. They're not going to cut Jimmy Ward. No. It seems to me it's Weston Richburg, D Ford eventually, and Jimmy Garoppolo eventually. And that's the list.
That's it.
They're not going to cut Raheem Mostert.
No.
So, okay. Not a lot of cap casualties, not a lot of ways for the Niners to create cap space. If they want to do it, they really only one way you can do it, and it's through the quarterback.
Right.
So now let's think about it this way. Like 25 undrafted free. The Niners have about 25 unrestricted free agents, 20-ish. And about what, 13 million in cap space. They want to give Fred Warner an extension, which could take up a lot of that. They don't have a lot of room for a lot of moves. They could probably re-sign 1-2 big names, and the rest are probably going to be close to the vet minimum. So if you had to name like the one player that you're most confident the 49ers will re-sign, who would you say it is?
Fred Warner, by far.
That's a good one. But hold on. He's not an unrestricted free agent. Let's stick with the unrestricted free agents.
Okay. Jason Verrett.
Okay. That's a good one. I agree with that.
I think Jason Verrett would be a perfect option because he's a boundary cornerback. You need to solidify the secondary. Richard Sherman's no longer there. Jason Verrett can come in and be the team captain, kind of fulfill that role and be that locker room guy. Obviously, he played at a very high level, an all-pro level, you could say. And he really proved himself that, after all the injuries that he's endured over the course of his career, he bounced back, did well in the Bay, and let's keep him in the Bay, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. He's going to be way cheaper than Trent Williams. Way cheaper than Trent Williams. So I'm going to say Kyle Juszczyk. Yes. I think Kyle Juszczyk will be pretty cheap as well. He might even give the Niners a little bit of like a 1-year contract discount because he likes being here. I think he actually would do that. And I think as opposed to giving that money to someone like Jaquiski Tartt, who's good but gets injured and misses a lot of time, I'd rather give it to someone like Kyle Juszczyk, who doesn't play 100% of the snaps. He plays about 40% of your snaps, but he is healthy most of the time, and he's the brains of your offense, kind of a leader on your offense, and he allows you to do things that all the other Shanahan disciples can't do because he can execute every block. So I think Juszczyk and Verrett, I guess see the Niners letting Trent Williams go just like they traded Buckner last year, and we're like, well, this allows us to re-sign multiple players. And actually, I'm with it. I wasn't with it with Buckner because Buckner was 25. Trent Williams is 33 almost. That's a different story. He has his own injury issues. So if they don't want to make him the highest paid offensive lineman of all time, and it allows him to bring back Verrett and Juszczyk, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if, I wrote a podcast on this earlier, I think the sweet spot for Trent Williams is about $18 million because you don't want to pay him 19.7, which is money that Ronnie Stanley's getting, and he's under the age of 30. Age of 30 plays a role, right? So you look at Nate Solder, who's 33, he from the New York Giants, he's getting 15.5 million. Well, he's definitely better than him. And then you look at guys who are under 30, like Garrett Bowles, right, from the Denver Broncos, and then Taylor Lewan from the Tennessee Titans. They get 17 and 16 million respectively. Well, Trent Williams is definitely better than those guys. So if you're his agent, you're looking at it, hey, he's better than Nate Solder, Garrett Bowles, and Taylor Lewan, but we know he's not going to get Ronnie Stanley money. So let's meet in the middle. I think $18 million is a sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get way more than that. I don't think he's going to meet the Niners in the middle. I think he's already said he wants to see what he can get on the open market. He missed a year of football, missed a year of game checks. I think he's going to cash in. I probably would too. He doesn't have any emotional ties to the Niners. He didn't have any emotional ties to the Washington team. Right. So I think he's going to go. But
I think he's gone. I think
he's gone. And we'll talk about what the Niners are going to do to reshuffle their line. But we have a question from Tony.
Okay.
He says, who do you think is the best center in the draft? Ryan, I don't know. Do you know?
Landon Dickerson from Alabama, man. That guy has a nasty mean streak, strong at the point of attack. He is very smart and savvy when making line calls, which is of the utmost importance from the position. Heard a lot of good things when talking to coaches who coached against him in the SEC. So Landon Dickerson, he had a torn ACL, does have and comes with red flags, Grant. Tore his ACL multiple times, dating back to his playing days at Florida State. However, he's a guy who could probably slip in the late first round, maybe early second round, depending on how the medical clears up. But I like Landon Dickerson.
Okay. Well, you heard it from Ryan. Ryan is my draft guy. He knows it. You think Ford is milking it? I have no idea. I'm not going to accuse him of milking it. I have no idea. Maybe I made a joke insinuating that he is, but I don't know. And D, you have a lot of money. Don't sue me because I don't. I just have one car. So I don't know. I hope he's not. Michael Young says, go get Cousins. He's Kyle's guy, so that would take away all of Kyle's excuses. Yeah, I like the sense of taking away his excuses, but no. Hell no. Yeah. No. Get a young guy. I'm with Joe Montana on this one. Get a young guy who's not injured. Is that so hard? Is that so freaking hard? No. Okay. Which free agents from other teams will the 49ers sign? They may not have the cap space to do it, but I'm thinking there's probably one player they'll at least bid on that's a significant player who would be a starter for them. So if you had to guess one vet starter from another team who's a free agent that the Niners are planning to make a controlled run at, who do you think it would be?
All right. I'm going to kind of think outside the box, if that's okay with you, Grant. So
I like when you think outside the box.
Okay. So I cover all 32 NFL teams, right? Yes. And when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they're $43 million in the red. So they have to clear up cap space, bro. Right?
This is genius. You're not thinking about the guys who are free agents now, who the guys who are going to get cut. This is
right.
Other teams' cap casualties.
Right. Yes. So the only logical choice where they can clear up cap space at the starter position is Derek Barnett, the 2017.
Ooh, that's been your guy.
That's my draft crush, right?
Been your guy, yes.
You go ahead and release Derek Barnett, save the team $10 million. He's now in the free agent market. Obviously, we're talking about D Ford. Well, he's going to be gone anyways. Maybe they can get Derek Barnett at a bargain rate than possibly getting one in the draft, because the draft is not very strong for the edge class and they need an edge. Derek Barnett would fit the Leo position extremely well. You know how I feel about Derek Barnett coming out of college. So yeah, Derek Barnett would be my choice, man. I see that being a bold prediction, although he's not released yet. No one's reporting this. You heard it here first. Two bums in the pod.
I think it's genius. For if you don't know, every year Ryan has a draft crush, and he's usually right on. I mean, last year it was Tristan Wirfs, if I remember correctly, and back in 2017 it was Derek Barnett. You even asked John Lynch about him in the pre-draft thing, and you were right. You know, you were right. Did you liked him better than was that 2017?
Yeah,
or was that 18? You liked him better than Solomon Thomas.
Solomon Thomas,
right? Right. So hell of a player would definitely replace D4. I think it's a good option. I'm going center. And they could address this position in the draft. But if they don't, I think there's a lot of interesting options on the free agent market. If they let Trent Williams go, that's $25 million. They don't have to spend on one offensive lineman. They can look at other positions, and center is a cheaper position. They could get Corey Linsley, who was all pro, hell of a player. They might have to spend a good chunk of change on him. Or they could get David Andrews, who's been the Patriots center for the last 4 or 5 years. He's a really good player. He doesn't miss a lot of time. He's cheap. He probably costs the Niners $3, $4, $5 million. That would be one guy, a starter that they could sign who would upgrade and solidify their line. And they could get, they could move Daniel Brunskill to tackle, because I don't know if he's a left tackle, but he's more of a tackle than Mike McGlinchey is at this point.
I like those choices, man. Corey Linsley, hey, you're smart, man. Solidify the offensive line and the rest will follow, right? So you get a center. They need a center. They need to make the line calls, man, because when you have J.J. Watt staring on the other side, he's going to feast on that, bro. He's going to smell blood in the water, bro. He's going to be like, dude, let's get the Sharks out here and let's circle the arc, bro. Let's get this guy.
It's true. And if you remember, the Niners did pretty well in 2019 when McGlinchey was out and when Staley was out. Because they had Richburg, who is at least a steady Eddie, decent starting center. Without him, they went to Garland, who was okay. And then last year they had Grassu, who's terrible, and Brunskill, who's not a center. So, if they could get a rookie, great. But it seems like Kyle seems to gravitate towards veteran centers because they're like the brains of the offense. They make the line calls, as you say.
Right.
So it could be Alex Mack. Alex Mack is just 36 years old.
He's old, bro.
Get someone. The Niners are becoming a very old team. Lindsey's 30. Andrews a little bit younger, a little bit cheaper. If they can get Corey Linsley, I guess he's a better player than Andrews. But there are other options. There are other options for sure. I like that. I would definitely, if the Niners lose Trent Williams, I think the Niners will and probably should solidify that center position.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last topic, and then we can take a couple questions. But we're already about 45 minutes in, and you always got to leave them wanting more. Ryan, we got 570 people watching this right now. Killing it, man. All right. Give me one bold 49ers draft prediction. I already kind of gave mine. I let it slip, but I'm going to say it again. What is yours?
That the Niners trade down from 12 and maybe like the 15, 16, right before the Dolphins pick at number 18 and select running back Naji Harris, my draft crush in 2021.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about Naji Harris. We talked about this on the phone, but for the people, I was recently talking to an ex-coach, not a scout, just an ex-coach. And I was thinking, what do you think of Naji Harris? And he said, most of the Alabama running backs don't work out. Now, Derrick Henry did. He's a freak. And Josh Jacobs has to an extent. He said, I prefer Josh Jacobs to Naji Harris. And he didn't say really why. He didn't really give a bunch of reasons. It was basically just a gut call that he had. And then I put it on Twitter, who's better, Naji Harris or Josh Jacobs? And like 75% of people said Naji. So I guess the coach had, an unpopular opinion. And maybe he hadn't really thought about it that much. But I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. Do you see, obviously you don't see Naji as the next Mark Ingram, the next Trent Richardson. So what do you see that makes Naji special? And compare him to Josh Jacobs.
Well, compared to Josh Jacobs, they're two vastly different running backs, right? Josh Jacobs can turn a 5-yard slant or a 5-yard run into a house call. Naji Harris is more the traditional throwback, pound and ground, smash mouth running style, straight up the gut, north-south violent, tough between the tackles, but can also be a dual threat back coming out of the backfield. I mean, the guy, I believe, had 70 catches in his last 2 years coming out of the flats. So when you put that all together and see what Naji Harris can do, he always makes the first tackler miss. And yes, that may be college football, but again, you're going up against SEC talent. So the projection at the NFL level is, yes, this guy can make the first tackler miss, turn a 3-yard loss into a 3-yard gain. And aside from that, he's very tough between the tackles. He's very good in pass pro when asked to do that, although he's not asked to do that very much at Alabama because he doesn't need to. But he gets the job done when asked and called upon. So when you look at Naji Harris and what he brings to the table, he's a complete back. We know he's going to score off the charts in terms of the spark testing, right? He's going to have a 40-something inch vertical, have a 125, 130-inch broad jump. The guy is going to test through.
What do you think his 40 will be? 4.5? Oh,
man. Probably somewhere in the 4.5,
4.6.
4.45, 4.58. Or sorry, 4.45, 4.48.
Oh, in the 4.4s. Ooh. Okay.
Possibly. Okay. Yeah, I see a 4.45 or a 4.4. I mean, it could be anywhere from what I see on film is, I'm seeing a 4.45 to 4.5 flat. So anywhere in between there, if I confirm what I see there, then I think he's good to go, but it should be under 4.5.
Okay. Who would you compare him to?
I said Derrick Henry with better skill set coming out of the flat because his dual threat ability is just too much not to be ignored. The guy is a beast, bro. Like you cannot bring him down on initial contact. It takes 1, 2, or 3 tacklers. And that's just amazing to me because at the end of the day, you have to keep your feet churning, which he does on initial contact. He also has great vision. So if you're looking for a complete back, Naji Harris is not scheme dependent. He can play in a power run or a zone blocking scheme. I would say when you look at a guy like Travis Etienne, he's definitely not a power run based back. He's more of a zone blocking Cliff Kingsbury type of a back. So at 16, odds are GM Steve Keim is going to roll with Travis Etienne from Clemson, then Alabama's Naji Harris. What you get with Naji Harris is someone who adds versatility no matter who the coach is or what coaching staff is in place. So that is a huge determining factor in building up Naji Harris draft stock. So that's what I love about him.
I like him too. Derrick Henry's 6'3", 247. I really feel like he's kind of a freak. I would compare Naji Harris to Ezekiel Elliott, like a young Ezekiel Elliott. Mm-hmm. Ezekiel Elliott was the 5th pick in the draft, and he carried Dallas's offense for years. He's just taken a lot of, he has a lot of tread on his tires now at this point.
Right.
Do you see that at all?
I see a more explosive back from Naji Harris than Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
I think he's going to be, because, we talked about this, Grant, remember?
No, but Ezekiel has slowed down throughout the years. Like 5 years ago, that guy was amazing. He was amazing at Ohio State. And really, his first couple of years at Dallas, he was great.
Right.
They just gave him like 350 carries a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. And one thing I will say, piggybacking on, the analysis that I said earlier, people don't understand the analytics side to it. All right. Let me just break it down in simplest form. Since 2010, there's been 18 running backs drafted in the first round. All right. 11 of them were Pro Bowl players. So out of 18 running backs drafted in the first round since 2010, 11 were Pro Bowls. That's a 61% success rate of hitting on Pro Bowl talent in the first. Naji Harris is definitely a Pro Bowl player. So if you want a Pro Bowl back, you're going to get Naji Harris. Plain and simple. If you don't, and he goes to a team like the Packers or the Pittsburgh Steelers or even possibly the New England Patriots, if they trade back from 15, because Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are best buddies, and if he puts in a good word for Naji Harris, don't be surprised if he even goes at number 15, because the last time he picked a running back in the first round was, I believe it was Sonny Michel from Georgia, but even before that was Lawrence Maroney out of Minnesota.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Plus there is the Saban Belichick connection.
Right.
No, the Patriots are going to take Naji Harris. You're right. That's exactly what they're going to do. They took Sonny Michel in round 1. Now they're going to take Naji. Good call. Okay, here's my bold prediction. If Mac Jones falls to the Niners at 12, they draft him.
Ooh, I like it.
And I got another bold prediction. If Justin Fields falls to the Niners at 12, they don't draft him. Ooh. If Trey Lance falls to the Niners at 12, they don't draft him. Those are my bold predictions. They're prepared to take Mac at 12. Of course, they would take Zach Wilson at 12. He's not going to be there. They would not take Fields. They would not take. I don't think they would take Mond at 12 either. And they don't have. They would have to figure out a way. They may not be in position to take Mond. I don't know what they do if they don't get Mac Jones. Maybe they would take Kyle Trask in round 2. No one's talking about Kyle Trask, and it seems to me all the good things you could say about Mac Jones, like all of them, apply to Kyle Trask too. So. I don't know. That's my Mac Jones at 12. That's the only quarterback they would take. That's my bold draft prediction. But I don't think he's going to be there. I think he goes to the Panthers at 8. I think Joe Brady looks at him as being the next Joe Burrow.
Dude, that'd be nuts, dude. Because, Joe Brady, man, you know how he worked with Joe Burrow at LSU, had Justin Jefferson, had a lot of weapons outside, had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, had Thaddeus. Man, it's crazy, bro.
Right. That's right. And just like Mac Jones had it at Alabama. Yep. And I think the Niners, when you see the Niners are interested in Teddy Bridgewater, maybe they've put 2 and 2 together like, oh, well, Carolina's definitely taking Mac Jones or someone who falls to 8. And Teddy Bridgewater's going to be available. We're going to take a quarterback in round 2. We're not going to need Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater's a better, cheaper bridge quarterback. He has bridge in his name. So it's a natural fit, for Bridgewater to be the bridge quarterback. Those are all our topics. If you guys have any questions, we could answer them for a few minutes. We'd be happy to. What about the kid from Stanford? What do you think of Davis Mills?
Davis Mills, I haven't done too much research on him, to be honest with you. So I can't really give my full scouting report on that. I'm still playing catch up on that. So you probably know more about it than I do. So once you
I'm with you. I haven't watched much of his tape yet. I'd actually like to do that. Maybe I'll do that a little bit today. But what I know is that he impressed people at the Senior Bowl. Right. But I look at what he did in college at Stanford. He started 13 games. Okay. He threw 438 passes in 2 years. He completed 287 of them. His numbers were decent. I mean, he averaged 8 yards an attempt. He threw 18 touchdowns and 8 picks. It seems to me that you can't take that guy in round 1, round 2, there's no resume there. If you think Trey Lance is green, what about Davis Mills? So he's a day 3 pick. You may like his arm. You may feel like, he just didn't get the reps because of the pandemic and this and that. He's got upside, but that resume doesn't land you on day 1 or day 2. He seemed like an interesting day 3 pick before I've even really watched him.
Right.
But it's good to know who the day 3 picks are that have actual starter upside. I watched Jamie Newman.
What do you think of him?
He looks like a Wildcat quarterback. He looks like Taysom Hill. Maybe he could be in a quarterback rotation, the dude who comes in and just runs. But he's never going to be a starting quarterback.
No, I agree with you, dude. No. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yeah, like good runner.
Yeah.
Good runner. Like if you had a team like the New Orleans Saints, they have a quarterback rotation. They have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, mostly Taysom Hill, but basically it should be a rotation. Right. That's how they use Taysom Hill with Drew Brees. That's how I would use Jamie Newman. Bring Jamie Newman on with Aaron Rodgers. And give Aaron Rodgers 5 snaps on the bench a game, or Tom Brady, and let that guy like run some runs, quarterback sweeps in the red zone. Maybe he'll score a touchdown. Never know.
You never know.
You never know. So kid from Stanford, I'll get back to you on that. But just from watch, I mean, there's no way dude with 13 starts in college is gonna unless he's Kyler Murray, he's gonna come in and start right away for a team. He's a project, but it seems like from what I hear, he does have starter traits and could develop, which makes him intriguing. What else we got? Maitland Eagle says Niners need to draft UCLA running back Demetric Felton, Debo 2.0. I've officially put a I refuse to watch UCLA football because I'm trying to get Chip Kelly fired, and I can't stand watch. I liked watching it when Jim Mora was the coach. I was in, but Carl Durrell, that was cool. Chip Kelly, no. So I can't. I'm not supporting. I want them to have terrible ratings and everything, and hope all the bad things happen to him. So what do you think? I don't watch UCLA football anymore. Is Demetric Felton good?
I have not done any research on Demetric Felton yet. Like I said, I'm still working on the scouting side of it. So still looking on those day 2, day 3 picks.
Top edge rusher in the draft.
Ooh. Top edge rusher in the draft. I would say Quincy Roche. No one's talking about this guy.
Who's that?
Quincy Roche from the University of Miami. So basically, he's a guy who was at the Senior Bowl, played really well, played behind, obviously, Jalen Phillips and Gregory Rousseau, who is also at the University of Miami. But Quincy Roche, to me, brings the same intangibles that I saw in Derek Barnett. You saw a strong get-off. I think his 3-and-code drill is going to be tested very extremely well. His 40 time is going to be well. He has the height, weight, speed to get bigger. Physical traits that you look for from an edge rushing presence, he has it. The one thing I will say that he lacks is consistency. He does display some type of a nonstop motor, but I need to see more consistency there. But he is a tough physical edge rusher that no one really is talking about. So he'd be a nice day 2, possibly even a day 3 pick. Quincy Roche from University of Miami. I really like him.
So that's what you think of this year's edge rusher class. Like, it's not good, and the best guy might be a day 3 pick.
Well, I mean, the best guy.
Your favorite guy.
Day 2 pick. Day 2. Let's say day 2.
So what you're saying is, if the Niners want an edge rusher, they're going to need to look in free agency. Derek Barnett. That's very interesting.
That's just my opinion, bro. Now watch me be wrong.
Well, everyone's wrong. I mean, these teams are wrong most of the time. It's just interesting to hear someone who really thought about it and done the homework. Best prospect that could fall to the Niners at 12.
Naji Harris.
You already said Naji Harris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4.
What about Rashawn Slater? What do you think of him?
Slightly overrated.
Why?
Slightly overrated. I just think because the offensive line class, especially, he's listed at what? What is he going to play? Offensive guard? Is that what they're projecting him to be?
I don't know.
He's listed
tackle,
at
I think.
Right? But then
he's short, but Isaiah Wynn is short, but yeah.
So basically, what's his arm length going to check in at? You know, is he going to take the bulky approach? It's like, oh, he has 35-inch arm length, so we can't take him. He has to be 35.5. Whatever the case may be, Rashawn Slater to me is a solid guard, offensive lineman, tackle, whatever you want to call him, but I don't see him being a top 15 or even a top 20 pick in any given draft if it was any other draft. I just don't see it.
Okay. Lindsley and a serviceable left tackle, or Trent and a serviceable center?
Lindsley and a serviceable. What's the question?
Would you rather have Lindsley and a serviceable left tackle, or Trent and a serviceable center?
Obviously, I'd rather have Trent and a serviceable center, but if we're talking financials, I think the logical choice would be the other way around, which is Lindsley and a serviceable.
Right, because it's not just Lindsley and a serviceable left tackle. It's Lindsley, a serviceable left tackle, and other players, because Lindsley's much like half the price of Trent Williams.
Right.
And I think we've already seen, like, having one great offensive lineman doesn't give you a good offensive line. They had this guy on their team last year. It was one of the worst offensive lines in the league, even though he played really well. You can't just put all of your money and assets into one position on the offensive line. It's a unit. Let Trent Williams go to some other team that wants to overspend on one player and build a whole unit. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What else we got? We got a couple questions, and then I'm going to let Ryan go. Hold the phone. Ken Martin says, if Trent leaves, does drafting an offensive tackle come before quarterback if Mac Jones or Fields are available at 12?
You want to take it first?
I mean, it depends on what you think of basically two players. Slater and Elijah Vera Tucker. Those are the two guys. I haven't watched enough to really have a strong. I've watched Kellen Mond for hours and hours and hours. I know exactly who it is. Now it's time for me to do the offensive tackles. I got to watch those two in particular. Maybe we'll do that this week. I just don't know enough about them, but it seems like if you lose Trent Williams and one of those two falls to you and you feel like they're a legit tackle that could be a Pro Bowler, how do you pass on that? Mm-hmm. It's an important position. He's on a rookie wage scale. I would say yes. On the other hand, the Niners have no cornerbacks under contract. And if they lose Jason Verrett, that's an even bigger need.
Right. And then you also got to point out, Lynch and Shanahan already screwed it up with right tackle Mike McGlinchey back in 2018.
That's right.
When I asked him in his pre-draft presser how many Pro Bowls he had ranked on his board going into that draft, and I believe he said anywhere from 12 to 15. He gave me an exact number. Well, they picked number 9, and obviously they thought right tackle Mike McGlinchey was a Pro Bowl right tackle. So I don't see any Pro Bowl right tackles in this upcoming draft, or even left tackles outside of Penei Sewell. So again, if you're sitting there at 12, do you play deja vu again and just reach for the need, diminishing the value of the pick? I don't think that's a smart play.
No, I don't think it's a smart play either. The Raiders just released Gabe Jackson.
Okay.
Do you think the Niners should sign him?
No, he's too old.
Too old. And he's like a phone booth guy, right? He's not going to be moving very well.
Yeah.
How old is Gabe Jackson? Let me see.
If I had to take a guess, I'd say 32, 33.
29.
He's only 29?
He's going to be 30 in July, though. He'll be 30 next season. Yeah, enough. Enough with the guys in their 30s. Let's get some younger players.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think he was at Texas A&M. He might have been there with Kellen Mond. I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not. Hold on. But he was at Texas A&M. I know that. Okay. Ashford says, I would trade up to get Wilson, Fields, Lance, release Jimmy, use his money to re-sign Williams, Juice, Verrett, and fool this team. Do y'all agree? Well, they're not going to have to trade up for Fields or Lance from what it seems like. Mm-hmm. You would have to trade up for Wilson. And to get Wilson, get that number 2 pick, you'd have to probably give up Nick Bosa. Look, I would trade Bosa for the number 2 pick, but I wouldn't use it to take Wilson. I would just trade down and let some other team take Wilson. I know people like Wilson a lot, but I see three athletes more than 3 quarterbacks when you list those 3. And they scare me. Even Wilson, he looks the most polished. He's playing at BYU. I don't know. So, but the rest of it, release Jimmy, use the money to re-sign Williams, Juice.
I like that.
Yeah. But yeah.
Why would you see? That's the thing. Why would the team keep Jimmy Garoppolo when all this toxic stuff is going? Like, we're talking about it. Everybody else is talking about it. Every time he wakes up, they were on the call with Teddy Bridgewater. It's like every time he wakes up, it's like a freaking notification he's getting on his phone. Like, dang it!
Thanks.
Like, are you serious?
Again, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're putting Jimmy Garoppolo in a horrible position, and you expect him to succeed. You switched roles with him. Okay, let's put you on the hot seat and let's have the media writing you and see how you produce and going into the draft. Hey, if you don't get this pick right, man, we're gonna fire you. Or if you don't do this, you're gonna be, it's just like, come on, bro. That's toxic.
Yep, it is. Well, I think Jimmy's gonna stay at least for a couple more months, and Williams is gonna leave, and the Niners are gonna say that's okay. That was our plan all along. Well, we'll see. Slater did dominate Chase Young when they went 1v1. I'll have to watch that.
I didn't see
because,
that. I'm not saying I didn't see it. I didn't see that. So I got to go back and watch that.
We got to go back and watch that because just because the dude's 6'3", I'm telling you, Isaiah Wynn with the left tackle for the Patriots is 6'2" with 33 and 3/8 inch arms. I just looked it up. So if dude can play, dude can play. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Wynn showed it at Georgia. I haven't watched enough of Slater, but I think you got to take him seriously because If he can play, he's the pick. If not, you don't want to make Mike McGlinchey prop. But the thing about him, McGlinchey is tall and light, which makes him really, really, really soft. This guy, at least he's a little bit more compact. He should be a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher against power, a little bit more able to drop anchor. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And he has bloodlines, right? Like his dad played basketball. Reggie is his dad. So
bloodlines are good.
Bloodlines are always good.
Worked out for Nick Bosa until he, anyway. Dude. Sorry. I just can't help myself sometimes. All right. That's the show. We've crossed the hour mark. Thank you guys so much for watching. We've got so many people in here. We appreciate all your donations and all your, attention, time span, and all that. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, we'll be back next week. 2 Bums in a Pod every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. I'll be back later this afternoon. I don't know what or with who, but I figure it out. So I'll see you then.